not authenticating with cookies, but you're using bearer tokens to run OAuth. Which one was it? Whoever requested OAuth, can you just clarify that? Vinod says, can you do more with mutation and revalidation? Still a little unclear with that. Maybe another example if possible. Yes, I can do that. Okay, so both, right? Prasad, log in with Google, that is, set up social login key and then do that, and then log in with Frappe, which is in Raven. Okay. Log in with Frappe. I'll let Prathamesh show that. I don't know if he has joined, but he'll show that on the mobile app, right? And he'll also cover React Native. We won't be able to implement it, right? But he will show how he did it, right? So I think that should be enough. And log in with Google, I can show, like, I can just code it, not for Google, maybe for GitHub, but the logic will still be the same, right? Okay, so we'll cover OAuth, we'll cover PWA setup, and yes, let's do mutation and revalidation, right? How many of you actually tried, building on top of the grid component yesterday? Okay, let me start recording. Sure, Bhavik. Yeah, I mean, just let me know uh, if you face any issues, because I think what I'm going to do after this course is probably, when I'm building these components, these common components, I'll probably just record and post it on YouTube. I don't know how helpful that will be, but uh, maybe that's something that's worth doing. Uh, okay, let me start recording on OBS and let's share my screen. So, okay, can you guys see my screen? Cool. So I'll start bench. We'll start with mutations and revalidations, right? And we will start with a simple form for a particular doc type. I don't know which doc type, but a particular doc type. Yarn dev, and then we do code so that we can open the code editor. Okay. In the project management module, what do we have that we can leverage? Like, what can we show to the end user where we can cover mutations and revalidations? Is there a dashboard or something in project management? There is. There is this. Right. This is one. Okay. Let's do this. Let's say that we already have that tasks list, right? And in the task list, we have a task row. So if I open that up over here, that's sorry, that's okay too. Yeah. Okay. Let's say that we also want to. So this was the priority selector, right? Let's say we also have a status selector. over here, and we wanted to change the status as it's happening. So okay. So the status selector, I'll have to get it from scope app because I don't have the markup. Um, okay, so I'm adding this status selector. Uh, okay. Once with the basic setup is done, we have open, working, pending review, overdue, template, completed, cancelled. Okay, fine. Status icon thing. So we'll have to make a status icon as well. And then wherever we see scope, we should just replace it with task. Okay, cool. Now this can be open. There's open, in review can be pending review. In progress can be working. Uh, completed, cancel. Let's just keep it this much for now. And then over here, let's have this. And I'll just also bring the status icon. Um, okay, backlog can be open. I don't know what to do will be, but this can be working. This can be pending review, completed, cancelled. Um, hmm, okay. I think maybe this can be open. This can be overdue. Overdue can be in red, right? Now they're saying that React icons. So there is this library called React icons, and it contains a set of uh, icons, right? So if you cannot, usually in just one icon pack, you won't get all the icons that you probably need. And if you don't have a designer, in-house, then you would probably look at a library like React icons, which is a library of all the icons that are available across libraries. In this case, we're using phosphor icons for the task, right? So let's install React icons in our front end directory. Now that's done. Once this is done, we have this. So overdue and open, right? So we need open. And similarly, we need overdue. Cool. And then this can be task ID. And status icon is also done. I don't think there are any more issues here. Status selector. Okay, good enough, right? So see, now we get this. Now you want to, change the status. Let me actually take this task 2024 to this side, just because it looks ugly. Yeah, looks better now. Okay, so now we should be able to change the status of a task right from here. Now, what do we mean by mutation and revalidation? One option could be that, so uh, whenever we fetch any kind of data using SWR, right? SWR means stale while revalidate, right? So what that means is that, let's say I fetched some data, right? I am on this list. Um, I click on a task, I go to the task page, right? And then I come back. In normal web applications, what will happen is that the fetch starts again and you'll see a loading spinner, right? So I was on that page, I'm seeing a list of tasks. I click on it, I work on my task, I come back, and then it shows me a loading spinner and then loads the task list again, right? Stale while revalidate solves for that, wherein it says, when you come back, we'll show you the cached data, previous data, while we revalidate in the background. That is, while we refetch the data in the background. Revalidate means that I'm just revalidating whether this data is indeed the latest data or not, right? Whether that data has changed, between the time you were out of the screen or not. So, and stale means that, after a certain amount of time, they just consider a particular data to be stale, which you can set yourself. So, uh, over here, what happens is that SWR will cache this data, right? And uh, when we, so, when we want to update the data, when we want to force update the data ourselves, we need to do something called as a mutation, right? Wherein we are saying, look, I know that something has changed, right? So, definitely mutate the data. So that's what we do over here with the mutate function, right here. The problem with the mutate function is that in this case, right, task row is there, and then inside task row, there's the status selector, and then the status selector needs to mutate it. So I'll have to pass this mutate function down all the way down to the individual components. Now, I would have to pass it down to priority selector. I would have to pass it down to status selector, right? So instead of doing that, what we have done is that we have given it a global key, right? And SWR gives us a way to mutate data. If we have the key, we can mutate any data, right, from anywhere in the application. So that's what we did with the priority selector, right? What I'm going to do now is I'm probably going to make this into a common hook, right? Uh, but ideally, what should happen is I'll create a common hook over here. Use class update.ts, right? Okay. So what do I need to update the task? Right, I need to make a post call. So use Frappe post call, right? Or use Frappe update doc, right? Use Frappe update doc, and this will return an update doc to me. What I can do is I can create a function that says update field. Okay, use task update, and I'll say which field. So the field name can be a key of task and value, which could be literally anything. And then we can say update doc. Something like this. Does this make sense? It's a common hook, right? Which we can use in both the priority selector as well as the status selector. So it's a way for me. So what I could have done is I could have taken this priority selector, copied this entire piece of code and, pasted it over here, right? But then let's say if we had a user assignee selector somewhere else and, we would have to do this a lot many times. So instead of that, what I'm doing is that I'm just, using something like this, right? And over here, I'm going to call this hook. And we'll say update field. Okay. I think this is good enough. What we'll need is also the task, right? So task ID is a string, and this can be task ID, and we can pass task here. Perfect. So when I changed the priority one, we saw that the mutation worked. In this case, the mutation won't work because we did not call the mutation in the first place, right? So if I do, working, I know the API call is happening. Let me dock it to the bottom. See, the API call does happen, right? The update doc, that does happen. And the result is also, with the new status, right? Working. But I did not mutate the data, even though I have the latest data with me. So what I can do is that whenever update doc is run, you can mutate the data. So instead of passing mutate, multiple times, I can take mutate from use swr config. And we have mutate here, right? So I'll say mutate, and I only want to mutate any keys that start with task list. So we'll say if key. So earlier this was just supposed to be task list, but since we have added dependence over there, we actually need to, look for all keys. So yeah, something like this. And now you'll see the problem with this approach, right? If I do working, see, I updated the task. This is fine. This API call is fine. But look at this API call. It's again fetching the, the task list, right? And then if I do this again fetching the task list. Even worse, if I have, let's say, a search query, right? And then let's say if I update something, it's again fetching the task list. So we don't want to fetch the task list again because right now it's just two tasks. But ideally, if we have the new data, why should we even fetch the task list? Right? So what we can do is, and also the other problem is, let's say if I throttle, if I'm on a very slow network connection, right? And I make this change, the UI takes time to update, right? Look at this. Took approximately 2 + 2, 4 seconds to update that UI, right? And I'm just updating one field, by the way. So, first the update happens, then the task list mutates, and then the UI updates. So it takes 4 seconds to do that. How can we cut that down? One option is that we can assume that, look, this API call is going to succeed. That's what is called as optimistic updates, right? So I can say that, look, this API call is more or less going to succeed. So let me update the data, but in case the API call fails, right, let's revert it back. So SWR has that. So instead of calling mutate after update doc, what we can do is we can call mutate, right? And let's not even worry about optimistic updates for now. Let's actually worry about the fact that we already have the latest doc over here, but yet we are mutating. Yet we are actually refetching the list. So let's not do that. Now, okay, remember this. Refetching the list is always not a bad idea. Let's say if there were dependent tasks or something, and I updated I updated one task and there were 5 other tasks that got closed because of that, right? Then it makes perfect sense to actually mutate the entire list, right? But in most cases, that's not usually what happens. So this is more of like the place where you would want to, improve performance. In a lot of places in our app itself, we have actually, done this, just, mutated the list because, especially when we are working with invoices, receipts, etc., you update an invoice and some other invoice also gets updated because it's a return of that invoice. So, um, yeah, but usually also in those places, the thing is that when you do that, right, you're already on a separate form. So once you come back to the list is going to get refreshed in anyway. So probably doesn't matter. In this case, however, we do want optimistic updates because the user is interacting, and we do want, we don't want to actually refresh the list because there's no dependent data as such. So we do a mutation over here first. And so the first parameter in the global mutate is the SWR key. The second parameter is the updater function. The updater function will nothing but this, right? The update doc itself here. And then the third function will be optimistic data. But let's not do that for now. We'll just say that, let it be false, right? The updater function will return a doc to us, and updater function will actually be a function first of all. Okay, updater function will be a function, and then what we need to do is we need to loop over the existing tasks. So what it's doing is that it's looping over the existing tasks, finding the row in which we have this task. It is possible that that task is also not there, but kind of impossible as well, right? And then, mutating it, right? I'll tell you where the problem with this approach is, but let's see the performance benefits because of that, right? It was taking 4 seconds earlier. If I now do, let's say, working, see, if I do working now, it updates it twice. That's fine. I'll refresh it so it won't do that because we have 2 keys. We also need to encapsulate the promise outside, but yeah. Right. If I do open over here, right, it only updates this, right? But then, uh, doesn't make the call for the list again, right? So at least now, if you look at the UI, it takes about 2 seconds for the UI to update. We can solve that with optimistic updates, right? With optimistic updates, we can assume that the UI is going to, be fine. And we can say, optimistic updates, optimistic data over here. I'll tell you the problem with this as well. But now if you look at it, it's updating in real time, right? At least the data is updating in real time, even though the API call isn't finished. If the API call fails, it will revert back to the original status. The problem is that, we have a status filter, right? So let's say if I'm on open, wait, what did I actually name it? Okay, we have two open tasks, right? So the status is now open, right? If I do this, if I do working, right, then, this doesn't make sense. Then the status itself over here is open and this is, working. So this shouldn't come up over here, right? If my status over here is open, then this should just go away, this particular row. And that doesn't happen. That's one of the problems uh with not actually revalidating. That's why I said, this revalidate false, you should always, try to revalidate it as much as possible. uh Only in certain scenarios do we actually not want to revalidate, and I'll also come to that. But for list views, etc., especially because in list views we know there will be search, there will be, filters, etc., keep this revalidate to true. So just remove this, but still keep everything else, right? Uh, because we still want to revalidate. So let's say if I do this open, right, it revalidates over here. If I make it working, you know, it's making a lot of changes, but then it goes away, right? Let me encapsulate this update doc outside. So that it only makes that promise once, like makes that API call once. So now if I update the status to working, right? Now this is on slow 3G, right? You can, like, the best apps that I've seen, they go a step ahead, right? They would actually, create their own mutation logic in such a way that if a particular, so for example, Linear's app, what it does is that it actually loads the entire data into IndexedDB, right? It's honestly a great case study for anyone looking to build really high quality apps. But if you look at their IndexedDB, yeah, see, they actually import all of the data that they have, right? So they have multiple databases, but they import all of the data, right? And every, sort of filtering logic, etc., searching, etc., all happens on the front end. Now, that would be like the best case scenario. Obviously, you won't have that. If I go to no throttling, do I have a status for working? Let's actually add that in our status filter. Tasks or not the sorry. Tasks, yeah. Um, Working, pending review. Yeah. So now if I update it to open, it's almost immediate, at least on regular networks. And if it's on slow 3G, then it takes a little bit of time, right? So then we should have something for all. Let's see if I can do that. If status is not equal to all, right? Okay, in slow 3G it looks slow, but now it's, it's fast enough. So I think you should always revalidate. I'll tell you where you probably shouldn't revalidate. Uh, you shouldn't revalidate. Let's say if you had a form for the project, you had use Frappe get doc to fetch the form details, and then you use Frappe update doc to update the form, right? Then in that case, you probably don't need to revalidate, because the update doc will get you the entire form, and there's only one key to update. There's no filters and all of that coming about, right? So with use Frappe update doc, you can actually, update the cache, with whatever result was given to use Frappe get doc. Uh, but for lists and stuff, even with Frappe React SDK, the updates that we'll push will probably not allow you to or not have this inbuilt, where we are mutating the list, because the list can be extremely complex, especially in terms of what's dependent and what's not dependent on it. So yeah, I don't know if that explains mutation, revalidation, what it does, or the benefits of it, right? I know it looks more like a headache, right? It's actually easier to just refetch everything. But as your app scales, and if you want to like truly provide like a world-class user experience, this is something that that you should consider. Otherwise, just mutating it is also fine. Okay, good question. So caching is actually happening in a map. So the so by default on web, SWR uses a simple map, and it's just happening in the browser memory. It's not storing in local storage or anywhere. Look at cache. So it's sort of like this. This is what actually SWR uses inbuilt. It's just a map. So a map has keys, and your keys could be anything, and values. That's pretty much it. So yeah, is that clear? The other thing that we need to do is that, because I've now, made this so much more cleaner, this status selector, let's actually replace our priority selector with this, right? I think this is much cleaner. No, the mutate actually, so there are, okay, I'll come to that. Okay. Um, so, right. Mutate will usually, right, when you're mutating data, it will refetch the data, it will revalidate it, right? So when you just say mutate, it will revalidate it, and the revalidated state, it will store it in the cache and also update it in the UI wherever it's being consumed, right? Revalidation, you can switch off. You can also say, look, I already have the latest data, which is exactly what we're doing over here. We have the data, right? So, do not revalidate it, right? Take this new data, right? So you can pass that in option. So I can say revalidate off or revalidate false, and it will be fine. So it's up to you. I usually, for lists, I prefer to revalidate. For documents, etc., I prefer to not revalidate, right? Because in documents, I have the latest data, so just update the cache, right? And for lists, etc., I might not have the latest data. So, take whatever data I have, or I might not have any data at all, right? And then also, refresh the data as well. So, mutation is nothing but changing the cache, but during the default behavior of SWR is that if you mutate, it will refresh the data. You can switch that off by saying that I do not want to revalidate. So you can set that in SWR options whenever you're mutating, whenever you're calling mutating. Any more doubts, questions regarding, mutations and revalidations? Okay, let's move forward. We have login with OAuth, right? Let's see about that. So first of all, I'll have to create a GitHub auth ID or something for me to actually set it up. Yeah, so I need to set this up, GitHub, client ID, client secret. Okay. Probably not this, but OAuth apps. I'll have to create a new OAuth app. Scope, homepage URL. Pratmesh, correct me if I'm wrong. This can be localhost, right? Authorized URL. That's a redirect URL, so it's fine. Think,
Yes, it can be.
yeah, authorization callback URL will be our this. I think it's 8026 slash whatever this is. There are two
Should be
slashes now.
HTTP.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is fine. Let's register the application. Not sure if this will work. Let's see. Client ID. '53 approve. Client secret. Okay. Let's log out and see. We have login with GitHub here. Okay. Okay. Sign up from website is disabled. We can enable that. That's all right. Login with administrator. Sign up from website. Where is it? Is it in website settings or system settings somewhere? Nope. We want this. Fine. Okay. Cool. We log out. We log in with GitHub. And then that's fine. You're not permitted. That's fine. Because we're trying to access the desk. I can give that user access, but at least the OAuth thing works. So just give it all permissions. Something is broken in the latest version, I guess. Okay, whatever. This is done. So this user will now be able to log in using GitHub. Perfect. So that works. I'll just log back in as administrator. And then on our React app, actually, let's log out and let's go to our React app login page. We haven't added a redirect yet, right? Okay, anyway. So over here, we need to, show the login with GitHub. So we can create an API to first fetch all the login scopes and everything, right? So in API, we have this user. We can also create a login.py file and Get login settings. Allow guest is equal to true. Okay, why allow guest equal to true? Because if the user is not logged in, they are a guest. So they would still need to get the login settings. What if we enable sign up? Does it create new user in GitHub or no? It will create a new user in Frappe. You already have a user in GitHub. You log in using that, it will create a new user in Frappe. So yeah, get login settings. So what we need is essentially what Frappe provides. And I'll just copy the logic and I would also recommend you to do the same. So here, there's login.py. They have a bunch of things over here, but let's actually just do this, right? In fact, let me check Raven because Raven implements it, not as a context, but as a React app. So redirect to, that's fine. Context provider for providers. So they do all of this. We probably don't need all of that later. Yeah, okay. Now I have a lot of things open. Let me close most of them. This is our new one. This is our old one where I was making this. Great. Amazing. Let me close this. Wait, no. Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry. I'll need to remove this. Yeah, okay. I go to get login settings and oh man. Oh, where's Raven? Yeah. So I'll tell you exactly what we need. We need a redirect to because you can have that in the request args, right? Then we are just creating a context, right? That okay, look, here are the providers that are available to you. Uh, okay, here are the providers that are available to you, and uh, you know, these are the icons and everything for it. Uh, Frappe provides this in their login.py file. Just copy that, to be honest. And let's do this. Okay. So once you have that, we just need to call get login settings on our login page. So if I go to my login page, I can say use Frappe get call, and we can say scope.api.login.this. And let's see what data looks like. Okay, it's an object, but okay, it's an empty object. That's interesting. Get login settings. Oh, I'm not returning context. Wait. So obviously it's an empty object. Yeah. Okay, so inside message, they have, social login true, provider logins, and then they have all of this data. We just need this, nothing else. So let's do that. Redirect to, and they have all of this. So provider name, they also have some icons and stuff. And yeah. So here's what we'll do. We have this login button in our card footer. Maybe we can create a div, and the div can get flex justify end. The button goes here. Okay. And then we say if data dot message dot social underscore login is true. If this is true, then render a div. And then over here, we can loop over all of the provider logins. So data dot message dot provider logins dot map. We have a provider. Okay. For each provider, we can, create a button. So let's see, p dot provider underscore name, right? On click, probably not even on click. What we can just do is we can just create this as like a tags, because these are supposed to be like just a tags. So we have auth URL, right? So we just do p dot auth URL, and then this is our find. Key will be p dot provider name. Okay, that's fine, I think. Yeah. So we need to stack these two together. So I'll just say that the flex direction on the card footer, or flex call, I think. Yeah, okay. And this can be width full. So can this be width full? And this can also be width full. Right, something like that. And then we also get the icon, I think. Right, we get the icon. Over here, right? So this is the icon. Let's do that. So in icon, we get icon dot src and alt, right? So p dot icon dot src if there is an icon. Alt will be p dot icon dot alt if there is an icon. Yeah, it does show up. You just can't see it. BG. Right. Okay. Something like that. But let me just change the BG to a color that we can all see. Yeah, that seems all right to me. And then we can do like flex and item center. and justifier center, right? Okay. Now if I click on GitHub, it should take me to GitHub and then, yeah, it's logging in over here. What we can do is we can set the redirect. Redirect. I think it was over here. Let's see. On Raven, it's asking for the redirect to, right? Yep. Yeah. We just pause that. Redirect to /scope. In our case, we can actually do this as import.meta.env.wheat base name, right? And probably /projects for now. I think that makes sense. Wheat base name is what we have in our env, right? env.production has this. Yeah, wheat base path. Okay. We'll also create a base name over here, but with just a forward trading slash. So wheat base path. env.production has /scope. So this becomes /scope/projects on production. Okay, now I need to log out now. Okay. Yeah. Login. Yeah. GitHub. There's failed to resolve github.com. Interesting. Wait, if I remove this, then nope. I think something's wrong with the GitHub connection now. It says max retry error. Yeah. Does that happen often, Pratmesh? Because I don't know. Maybe I can just revoke all the. I mean, I don't need to do that. Okay, let me try login with GitHub here. Yeah, same thing. Okay, now something's broken with GitHub, but you got the idea, right? How you would actually create a login page. Whoever wanted this OAuth to be covered. It's actually nothing. It's just, on your login file, you're just getting like all the providers and everything, right? And then just, rendering A tags. That's pretty much it. The other thing is that since this never changes, this use Frappe get call never changes, what you can do is you can actually turn off all revalidations to false, right? Why revalidate this? Revalidate on mount is fine. Revalidate on reconnect is also false. Yes. Okay. So that covers this. If I click on that GitHub button, will it create a user in Frappe and redirect us into React app? Yes. If your sign up is enabled, yes. Right. And obviously then you'll have to, set up like a default role, etc. as well. You can do that in portal settings, I think, if you have sign up enabled. And yes, if you set the redirect to over here correctly, right, and get login settings, it's the same thing, it's the same way how Frappe also handles it. So we're not doing anything different over here. So yes, it will redirect you back to your React app. That's how Authentication on Raven also works, hopefully. Yeah. So if you look at this, there's Raven login, right? I can log in with Google. It took me back to Raven, but there's a bug on Raven where it stays on the login page. We need to fix that. But it does take you back to whatever routing you mentioned, right? So slash Raven or whatever. If you look at Frappe, uh, Raven dev would have social login key, hopefully. Yeah, we do have GitHub, but I don't think that this works. I don't even know whose credentials these are. But anyway, the point is, yes, if you pass in a redirect to, it will redirect you back. There is no button called login with Frappe. No, no. So see, that's I think you're talking about Frappe School, right? Yeah. So this is so what these guys have done. I'll log in and show that to you. See, Frappe has multiple sites, right? Frappe.io and Frappe Cloud and everywhere else, right? So they have created on their main site, they have created what is called as an OAuth client, right? So they have created something like this, Frappe, and then the redirect URLs and stuff like that. So they have created an OAuth client, and then on their like on Frappe School chat, they've gone to social login key and just did login with Frappe, right? And you just need to set your base URL. So I'm pretty sure their base URL is like frappe.io or something, and then the client ID, client secret. So you can actually see, what the URL would be. So see, the href is frappe.school. So login with Frappe is happening on frappe.school, right? So you can use your frappe.school account and I think handle that. This should work. Yeah. See. So, but we need to fix that bug. It takes you back to the login page. But yeah, that's kind of the point. Then we have set up Google OAuth and disabled login in Frappe, but still Raven show default login. How to disable default login and only allow sign in with Google. Uh, wait. You've disabled default login in Frappe. What does that mean? Default login, like login with email and password. You've disabled that.
Yes.
Okay. So I don't think that we are handling that right now. So where do we do that? Disable username, password, login, right?
Yes.
This one. Oh yeah, this is a feature that I contributed to Frappe. Yeah, okay, yes. So yeah, I don't think we are handling this. Prathmesh, did we handle this? Disable user pass login? We did not, right?
No.
I don't think so. Yeah, we can do it. We'll have to add it to login context and then hide all of this, right? And then only show the social login key. The only thing is that I actually added this help text when I created this feature that, look, if you disable this, then, and you do not have a social login key, then, you'll be locked out and then you'll have to log in from the server or something to fix it. So yeah, we can add that. Just raise an issue on GitHub. It won't take a lot of time to actually add this.
Will do.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
How to redirect to the UI or React from API after redirection. So if my GitHub thing works, I could have shown, but so see what I've done over here is that I've told it to redirect to, right? So get login settings, I'm sending redirect to projects, right? Whatever my base path / projects. And then if I look at my login, I've set redirect to over here. And in my get OAuth to authorize URL, there's a redirect to as well. So what that means is that if I go to /login, I'm logged in. Okay, let's look at what gets rendered on that button. Look at the authorized URL. You see, this is not just github.com login authorize. It says redirect URL to, localhost. I don't think you can see it, but localhost API method, Frappe integrations. Can you see that? And also another thing that I noticed was over here, we're passing redirect -2. Maybe we can just say redirect _2, and over here, instead of getting it from a request, we can just get it from here. Right. This will also work. So let's see. The redirect URL, I can't read this gibberish, but it says localhost 8080. Right, and then hopefully this works now. Yeah, so it takes me to /projects, right? I think the redirect URL that I've set is incorrect. Prathamesh, is redirect to supposed to be like the entire HTTP path? No, this is this. If I don't redirect, why would it take me here? Okay, we need a logout button there. Okay, let's see over here. Right, what do these guys do? So this also looks pretty much the same, right? There is, yeah, pretty much the same thing. I think what's happening is that it's taking me to /projects. Oh, okay, got it. My read base path is a slash, right? It should be empty. Sorry, on my local machine. Okay, now if I do this, yeah, see, works. And also, if I build this, it should ideally take me to scope /projects. So we log out from here, we go to /scope. As I said, we already did that, right? We did that over here. When we got the redirect to from the API, right? And then when we're creating the authorized URL, we passed the provider name as well as the redirect to it. So that will give you the OAuth redirect to. Let's see. Yeah, so it takes me to /scope, /scope/login is where I would have to go. Yeah, I do GitHub login. Yeah, takes me to projects, right? So the redirect to is important. For reference, just look at how Raven has set it up. or even this. Now, even this is ready, right? We're just getting the redirect to here, and in the authorized URL, we're just setting it. So yeah. Okay, what else was there? Login with Frappe. I hope you understand that, right? What actually happened? Or do you want me to set it up and show it to you? Because it's the same thing. It's just, the other side is actually when Prathamesh covers React Native, right? He'll show that to you. So that's fine. What else was there on our list? Now I forget. I think it was PWA setup. Let's do that. Okay. So for a PWA, what do you need? Well, for a PWA, our React app is good enough to be a PWA, except for one thing, that we just need a manifest file, right? Frappe login is nothing but login the Frappe users, right? Yeah, so Frappe login is like, so just like how, with GitHub login, GitHub is handling the authentication, right? So GitHub is the OAuth client. Similarly, you can make your own Frappe site and OAuth client. And then, one Frappe, so you can log into this Frappe site from this Frappe site, right? Using the same credentials. If you just enable OAuth over here, and over here you have your regular username, password, login, or whatever. So that's Frappe login. It's nothing but that, your site can become an OAuth client, and other people can use, let's say, login with Raven, something like that. Yes, user should have an account in one Frappe. It's similar to how you have an account in Google to actually log in with Google on any site, and then they create an account, right? So that's just OAuth federation for you. Okay. Can you please talk more about Frappe session? Sure, I'll cover that. Web app manifest, right? You just need a web app manifest to actually make a React app or a Vue app into a PWA, right? At least to be registered as a PWA, right? So a web app manifest, you can read the documentation, but what I usually do is that in my favicon generator, right? So I have this real favicon generator.net. Whenever we, want to create like a favicon for our app or whatever, it gives me a manifest file automatically. So I take that manifest file and I put it into my public folder, right? I'll give you an example of it. Since I do not have any icons or anything, I'll give you an example of how to set it up. So in this case, we haven't used a manifest file for good reason, right? What we've used though is we've used something called as Vite plugin, Vite PWA plugin, right? So you can look at, I think Prathamesh can share this documentation, and you can start with, just generating a simple PWA for you. You do not need a service worker by default, right? We needed service worker on Raven for push notifications and stuff, but you do not need that. In our Vite config, all we have done is that we've just added Vite PWA, right? And this is our manifest, wherein, you can provide a set of icons, you can provide, a short name. You need a start URL. In this case, the start URL would be something like /Raven, description. And that's pretty much it. If you do this, the build output that comes out is in my public folder. In my public folder, see, they have this manifest that comes out, and yeah, here. So we have this web manifest, and I can save it so that you can see. So if you add this .web manifest file for your app in your public directory, then it becomes a PWA by default. In any case, even without this file, right, it still can be used as a PWA. So there's really nothing different between, let's say, a web app and a PWA. The main difference, however, is that if you register your app as a PWA and then you register a service worker, with the service worker, you can do a lot more. With a service worker, you can, let's say, get notifications, which I'll be very honest, doesn't work that well, right? Because Google and Apple do not support it very well. And it again depends on phone to phone, how it will work. You can have splash screens, you can have icons on Chrome, at least on Android. You can have like similar installation flow wherein users can see like similar to the App Store, but the users can see screenshots of your app and stuff. So uh, it gives you a little bit of that. You can actually look at what all capabilities you get in the application tab over here. So in this case, we do not have any manifest. But if I look at Frappe School Chat, and let's go to application, you'll see we have a manifest over here. Then, oh, okay, apparently a lot of the icons are not of the correct size. We'll have to fix that. But anyway, you have this identity, we have a theme color. So the theme color and the background color is really important. If you look at all these new phones that we have where they have a notch, right? A native app can control the color of the notch. We cannot as a PWA. So we only have to do it via the manifest. So you need to set it correctly. When I go to dark mode, right, the manifest color doesn't change, but I apply a trick to actually change it in the HTML header. And if you use Raven on an iOS device, you'll see that the color changes. So it seems to work. Then we have all of these icons, etc. But the main thing is service workers. So for example, we have these service workers available, right? And these service workers can allow you these background services. For example, push notifications, push messaging. You have background fetch, back and forward cache, background syncing. These will be available to you if you have a PWA. But as far as creating a PWA from a React app, all you need is a manifest, right? Everything else is like opt-in. So yeah. I don't know if are there any more doubts regarding PWA? Just refer to Vite plugin, Vite PWA plugin, or just add a web manifest file like this. Just download a sample web manifest file and just add it to your public folder. Like can we use capacitor? So okay, so with Frappe, at least with the Doppio method, even if you wrap it in capacitor, the problem is that when you actually deploy it, right, cookie-based authentication won't work. Because it's now built into a native app. So you would have to implement OAuth using capacitor's OAuth plugin that they have, right? I think the folks from Opportune would remember that we implemented it via Firebase. So we had authentication in Firebase, and then we implemented that on our capacitor app from Firebase. When we got that token, then we passed it back to our Frappe server, and did it that way. But you can use OAuth, right? Get the bearer token and then pass it back to Frappe for that. With PWA, like capacitor can run, whether it's a PWA or not. If you use capacitor, it will automatically generate the PWA for you. But cookie-based authentication won't work. Like you can't just take, whatever we built, I can wrap it in capacitor and it will seem to work on local environments, but it won't work when you actually deploy it. But however, if you only have one domain, right? So, okay, yeah, this is a very important caveat. In our case, the problem is that let's say Raven can be installed by anyone, right? So in our case, their domains can be anything. But if you only have one domain that you're interacting with, then you can add it as a verified domain in iOS and Android. And then in that case, cookie-based authentication should work. So that's that. Yeah. Suppose that two users are working on two dependent pages where one user make changes on parent doc that is linked with child doc. Okay, they're working on two dependent pages where one user makes changes on the parent doc that is linked with child doc, or the child doc is linked with the parent doc, and the other user is on child doc and makes changes there also, concurrent changes. I mean, you can still do it. Why wouldn't that work, right? If one reason why it couldn't work is because of the creation and, or because of the timestamp mismatch error, right? Or if there's already a database model that's there. But very rarely would that happen, right? Yeah, you can do that. Like, why would that be any different from, one user working on 10 users working on the same thing? You'll have to listen to socket events, right? There's a use Frappe document event listener as well. You can use that to listen to socket events, and then, if there's a change and you want to make some changes on the UI, either you can make the changes on the UI and the form immediately, or you can, like Frappe does, there are changes have been made to this form. Please refresh, and they have this refresh button that comes. So you can do either of those two things, but I don't think why that would be a problem. I think only Ninad's question is remaining, right? Wrap it up session. Anything else? Nope. Okay. Frappe.session. So for that, just refer to Frappe's code base, and I'll do that over here. So Frappe has a class of session. So sessions.py, right? It has a class of session. And we normally use frappe.session.user, which is essentially for any web request. What happens is that first the authentication happens, right? And for that web request, Frappe will set up the session object. They'll have a look at the cookies, they'll have a look at the API key secret or the token that has been sent. They'll, look at that session. They'll then go to their session table in the database, pull up that session, and give you all of this. And that's exactly what Frappe.session is. So so this is the entire class, but I think it will be in some init file, maybe. Yeah. Session is a dictionary, right? Over here. Yeah. So local, and they're getting that from the worker, right? So yeah, that's pretty much it. Like session is just an object that gets created, for every request. So Frappe.session will get you the current session of the user who requested that change or whatever it is. I don't know what else would we need in this. I mean, that's pretty much it. Like there must be something called a set session or something. Why would you need to add new values to the session and also not related to React? But why would you need to add new values to the session? Like, get session. I mean, the session is something that, that Frappe maintains, right? What kind of new values do you want to add to the session? And
Hi, Nikhil. I hope I'm audible.
yeah.
Yeah. So let's assume that now on this portal, you are allowing users from different sources. Now, let's say people are logging in from Frappe itself, people are logging from OAuth, like Google login. As well, we have just tried GitHub as well, right? So can you
Yeah.
please, if you want to differentiate this type of users, as in, uh, although we are storing their values on the keys, etc., on the databases, can we just differentiate from where these users are coming from. And depending on that, I want to redirect them to a certain page. Like say, for example, if the user is from GitHub user, I wanted to show him some GitHub page, etc. That's why
Mm,
can we store those values into sessions so that it would be globally accessible?
yeah, I don't think that storing it in the session would make sense. The session is, if you can look at this, right? Insert session record. Session is a separate table in Frappe. I can show that to you over here. Bench MariaDB. Select star from sessions. I think it's sessions. Yeah. See, this is the table. It stores the SID and then the user, the IP, the last updated, the session expiry, the CSRF token, user type, and the language, right? After the session has finished, like after the login has finished, even even this code actually doesn't know how the login happened, right? One way that you can actually see how that login happened is check the OAuth logs. Right.
So does that mean you cannot manipulate that? Because over here, if we want to check that, we have to what box. So there might be some. So we might need to check different tables, and then left align those table. Left join those tables with the user table. Correct me if
Yeah,
I'm
but
wrong.
see, the thing is that when they're logging in itself, right, using let's say GitHub or whatever, right, then you can set a redirect URL, right, based on the login method, and they'll be automatically redirected to that. Just like what I did, right, over here, when they log in from scope, they are being taken to slash scope slash projects, right? Wouldn't that work?
Can you please show that part if everyone is comfortable?
Yeah, so if you look at login.py, right, I did, when we were getting the OAuth to authorize URL, right, my redirect to, I'm sending it from the front end, right? The front end can send whatever, but that's the OAuth to authorize URL. What you can do in your case is you can also, when you're rendering it on your front end, the login buttons or whatever, you can set the redirect to based on the provider, and then automatically the user is redirected there every time they log in using that. So that could be one, right? So you just set the redirect to over here. You can look at get OAuth to authorize URL that they do in Frappe. Yeah. The provider. So what they will do is that they'll get the OAuth to flow, then they'll just set the redirect to, and yeah, the OAuth to flow is this. They get the OAuth to service with the state. They'll just encode all of that in base 64, and then that's pretty much what they'll do. So like you can pass in a redirect URL like that, right? So you don't need to add it to the session. Playing around with session and stuff will be a little risky. And also you can check, if for a particular user there's a child table where you can check, what all social logins they've used. So this is also available. Okay. Any more questions? Anything that you would like me to cover in Frappe React SDK? How many of you have actually built, can you please update README file of Frappe React SDK? Yes. So I am working on the wiki, right? So if you look at, get doc list, the documentation is updated with a lot of use cases, edge cases, right? So I am working on the wiki. We'll probably move away from the README file to the wiki. But yeah, still a work in progress, takes a lot of time to actually write this documentation. But yeah. List down steps for SMS or payment integration. I haven't done that. So I honestly don't know. All I know is that there is an SMS settings thing over here where I think if you have like a Twilio or something, you can send in, your gateway URL and stuff. And then there is an SMS center that you can use to send messages, SMSs. Or that's all I know about it. You can read ERPNext docs for that. And similarly on payment integration as well. I think they'll have like Braintree and I think there's a separate app called Payments. You can use that for payment integration. Any other questions? And then if not, then we can move to React Native and Prathamesh can show the code required for React Native. Okay, Prathamesh, can you share your screen? I'll stop sharing.
Yeah. I think you need to allow multiple sharing for this meeting.
Okay, let me see where I can do that. Or I can request you to share, right? Allow. Okay, now you're the co-host. Can you share now?
Yes. This is is it?
Or you're not able to share?
No, I think it is asking for a system setting to change.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Now?
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah. So basically in React Native, what we had done is we had created a basic template from this command, which is npx create expo app. So we are using expo with React Native. It basically gives us navigation and stuff. I'll share this link. How do I share this? Okay, I'll share this later. But we have to write this command at first. It will basically generate a template of sorts and give you a boilerplate code. Once you have that boilerplate code, then you can start. I think what all we had done was first, after getting the boilerplate, should I show it right now and create a new app?
Not really. You just need to show what
Okay.
all was needed to make the Frappe React SDK work with React Native, because people can
Okay.
choose to, use anything.
Good. So after doing the boilerplate stuff, we need to install Frappe React SDK, which is simple. Use your package manager. If npm, then npm install Frappe React SDK. If yarn, then npm install yarn add Frappe React SDK. After that, you need to import Frappe provider, which is similar to what we are doing in React as well, and add it to your app/layout.tss file. You will have this once you have your boilerplate ready. Inside that, you need to wrap your whatever your app is with Frappe provider, similar to what we are doing in React.
So two
And
things over
then,
here, right?
yeah.
In Frappe provider, the problem is that in React Native, there are two problems. One, that cookie-based authentication won't work. So you will need to use token-based authentication. And more often than not, your React Native app would like to connect to multiple sites, right? So in our case, Raven would, you would first enter the site URL, and then we would show the login page, or then we would, trigger the OAuth flow. The user logs in, we get a bearer token. So we need to store that in the storage, right, for React Native. All of that, it has got nothing to do with Frappe React SDK. Frappe React SDK won't be at the root level of your app. It will be much lower, right? Because the user can switch sites, and so would their Frappe provider, right? And then we can pass these token params and a function to actually get the access token from the storage for every API call. You would need to pass in the site name, etc. So you would need to store the URL, you would need to store the token, you would need to store the site name in your storage in React Native for every site that gets connected, right? If it's only one site, then it can be hard coded. That's fine. And also the SWR config, that's the second problem. So in React Native, there's no such thing as a focus, right? Or yeah, so your listeners changes, so your SWR config will also change. So for provider, you have a map, but for whether the app is visible or whether the app is online, you can use network state in React Native to read all of that. Whether, for init focus and for init reconnect, again, these two are things that we got from the SWR documentation itself. So you would just need to override SWR config, and that's pretty much it. After that, Frappe React SDK at least works fine. Then it's up to you how to make it. Is that correct, Pratmesh?
Yes.
So with Frappe,
so
after this Frappe provider is done, we don't have to do anything else related to Frappe React SDK, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
It's plain simple. After that, you can use the same hooks which you're using in React, same way in React Native. So I can show file maybe. We have a hook here.
Yeah. So these hooks are pretty much the same, like, what we have on our main web app. I think it's actually copied from there.
Yeah,
so
it's the same thing.
Yeah, so the goal would actually be, we are able to share code between our web app and our mobile app once the mobile app is a bit more mature. Right now it's in the very early stages. Can I create using React Native CLI?
Yes, you can. But I think I would suggest using Expo. It just handle stuff better.
Right. And then there's a question, can you please show use auth hook? In React Native, you won't have use auth hook. You don't need it because there is no cookie authentication. So in React Native, your authentication needs to be handled by you via OAuth, right? So maybe Prathamesh,
Yeah,
you can
how we
show
have
the
done
OAuth
that.
client that we created.
Yeah,
No, not over here, but the OAuth client that we created in our, and for reference, you can look at Hussein's video on React Native. He has a live stream. I think it must be like episode 6 or somewhere. So we created this OAuth client, right, for Raven, and the redirect URL, you can see that it redirects back to, on production, this will be different, but over here, it's redirecting back to our local server.
yeah.
And
You just need to add this later on.
yeah. And then once they log in using OAuth, right, that's when, you get the bearer token, and that's when you actually have your sub components where you can use Frappe React SDK. Like the Frappe provider goes from there. So yeah, so you can maybe show, I don't know if it works.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
So it opens a page like this, and you need to confirm your access, just allow, and reverts back
Yeah.
to this.
And if you did not have access, what it would do is that it would ask you to log in, right? And all of the login methods that are there available in your Frappe site, those would be shown over here.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's React Native SDK, like Frappe React SDK on React Native, right? So it works with React Native. We are not facing any issue on the data fetching part yet, right? Even the socket issues that were there, we already contributed fixes to the Frappe code base. And so those have been fixed as well. So no issues as of now. But yeah, the issues are with React Native, not with Frappe on React Native.
I think I faced an issue which was the WebSockets were not working on the live dev server, but if we are using the hosted one, that is our 8000 server, at that site it was working.
Right. So on our live server, I don't think that the latest update has been pushed.
Okay.
Right. So the fix that I had made on Frappe, I think it's in develop branch. It was not backported to version 15. So that might be the issue, but we'll have to check.
Yeah, apart from that, I think everything was working.
Yeah. So any questions related to React Native? Or maybe Prathamesh, if it's ready, you can show something over here for, maybe like a channel or something. I don't know if it's working or not.
So we are fetching messages from our local dev server. Once we click on a channel, it fetches some messages. So it's still work in progress. I'm still working on the chat stream. But yeah, it works. So I need to connect to Raven Dev. Currently, I'm connected to local server to send messages, which is real time. It does send, so I can show it to you, but it won't happen real time. So, okay. Oh.
Which channel did you send it to? General.
General, yeah. I don't know. It was working.
No, I think there's an error that came up. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
So
was
it's
an error.
still
That's
work
why
in progress.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
we
mean,
are
the
still
entire
working on
design,
this.
everything, it's another 2-3 months of work at least. So yeah. But as far as, data fetching, etc. is concerned, it's fine. So any questions about this? For real-time update socket part, can you show that, Prathamesh? I mean, it's the
Yeah,
same hook,
probably.
right? But
I think I'll rather connect to there.
okay, you're connecting to Raven Dev.
Yeah. Give me a minute.
Okay, maybe you're not logged in, right?
Oh yeah, I need to change the URL again on dev
Yeah.
server. This is a bit hassle, but I think once you figure it out, it's simple.
Yeah, just show the socket part, right? Because Richard Richard wants to see the socket part. I mean, I don't think the socket part is any different. Over here, there's nothing different, but go to like like an event listener or something. Maybe chat stream would have that, right?
Yeah.
Once it's ready, once the React Native app is ready, we'll probably have another course or something like another batch, on just React Native, hopefully. No guarantees, but probably. One of the most frustrating things about this is that it takes so much time to actually build the app. Yeah, the socket part, can you show the code, Pratmesh?
Socket
Maybe
part.
on the use chat stream. Use chat stream would have that code, right?
Yeah, use chat stream has it.
Yeah. So it's similar to the code that we have on our web platform, right? So just use Frappe Event Listener, nothing else. The hooks do not change, right? The main problem is just the fact that, I mean, what we are now doing is we're trying to, connect to a main server. Normally, what we do is we have a local bench, right? And we always connect our web apps to the local bench and develop locally. For React Native, we are thinking, okay, maybe connect to an actual live server itself, because it honestly doesn't really matter, right? Everything is token based, right? Everything is OAuth based authentication. So why would it even matter, to have it running locally? And when it's on production, the thing is that Nginx also does a few things related to the URL. Uh, especially for socket events. So that's what we are working right now, but it's not without issues. In like we do face issues. The good thing is that if we do face issues, we contribute the fix back to Frappe. So once this app is ready, pretty much any other React Native app could be built, because in fact, if you're not reliant on socket events, you can build a React Native app right now, right? The socket events
Yeah.
are the biggest hassle. So and without socket events, Raven cannot work, just cannot work, right? Without significant penalties on performance. So yeah, but once this app is ready, hopefully, we'll see a lot more React Native apps available that do not use API key and secret, right? That actually use OAuth.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's it. If you have any questions, please, ask. Else, we can conclude, because I really don't have anything else that I need to show you. So far, do you think that it's simple to make like a React app, on top of Frappe? Or, do you think that you would need more training or something like that? Okay. Yeah, that is true, right? What I've seen is that like when we make React apps, we usually like spend about 80% of our time on the front end and about 20% of the time on the back end. I mean, normally it's split 50-50. In our team, everyone's a full stack dev. So, that's the split that we have because Frappe does so much of the heavy lifting on the back end that then on the React side, or even on Vue, it's much easier to build, because Frappe framework has done a lot of the heavy lifting for you. So, but a few traditional practices, yes, we are also trying to, fix that, like being more performant, providing a great user experience. We're also learning from the other great apps that we see in the market. But yeah. Uh, okay, I have a few questions, right? Uh, we are working on, let's say, we are obviously working on this React Native thing. We're working on Raven, and its integrations with some things. Right. So, what would you, and we are also planning to actually, build like an entire component library similar to Frappe UI, but it will be separate from Frappe React SDK. We want that flexibility for the end developer that if they want to use a separate data fetching solution, they can use that. If they want to use a separate UI solution, they can use that. So we'll probably create, like a Frappe React UI. It's still in the works. So, now that Hussein has introduced me to this OBS thing, right, where I can just hit record and then, just upload it on YouTube. Would you like me to, when I'm creating these components, right, would you like me to, maybe upload a video of just, I won't edit videos and all of that. I don't know any of that, right? But would you like me to just record, when I'm building these components and then upload it to YouTube? Is that something that, would be interesting to you? Okay. Okay. Because honestly, it's not a lot of effort. It's just a little bit of storage, right? Each of these videos were like a gig, right? On my storage on my laptop. But apart from that, it was fine. So yeah, I still haven't figured out the live thingy. Right. I'll have to maybe learn that from Hussein. But yeah, at least recording a video and then just uploading it, it's a raw video. Maybe that will help. Um, right. What do you mean by resize the video? How can I? Oh, okay. You mean compressing the video? No, I mean, I'm not recording in 4K or anything. I'm just recording in plain HD. But these were like 3-hour videos, right? I mean, I hopefully I don't take that much time in in building components. So yeah, I think that's something that would be pretty cool that I can just build it, upload it on YouTube, and you can also get some ideas on how to build it. So yeah, it will be nice to also get a starter template for React Native mobile app. I think Hussein has that. Hussein has a Doppio mobile repository, but it doesn't use Frappe React SDK. You can add it. He doesn't use Tama GUI either. He uses hey, what was that, Pratmesh? Hello Kitty or what? No, Kitten UI,
UI
right?
UI
Something.
kitten.
UI Kitten, right? Yeah, I always remember it as Hello Kitty. Okay. Uh, um. So do you mean like Radix UI-ish? Yeah, like ShadCN UI-ish, right? So I started building it. So one of the problems that I face with ShadCN is that you do still have to do a lot of designing because the colors are really bland, right? I mean, even if you set up a theme, the colors are bland, so you do have to do a lot of designing on top of it. So I think I have started building it with ShadCN itself. So yeah, it will look a lot like ShadCN, but I'll change the design a little bit. And yeah, I think that's what I'll do. Component. Every 2-3 weeks probably. That'll be cool. Okay, if there's nothing else, then I think we are good to go. I'll have to stitch 2 videos together and upload it to YouTube for today. Yeah, thanks everyone. If you have any questions, just feel free to message me on either Telegram or on that Frappe School chat, right? That channel will be there, right, for any React related doubts. People who have faced issues with installing and setting up bench, etc., also do that. In last video, you showed React tab inside Frappe. Can you explain how to do that? I can explain how to do that. Let me share my screen. It's a good segue. Share. I just hope my recording is going on. Yeah. Okay. Let's cut down on Frappe. Raven. Yes. Okay. On YouTube, let me see if Hussein has that or not. Build with Hussein whiteboard. Yeah, there you go. There's this live stream, 1.5 hours. I don't have to do anything. But basically, he uses Doppio to add a custom page built with React and then uses TLDraw to make the whiteboard. I think I can show the whiteboard here. So this is how it looks. I don't know if it works. Yeah, it does work. See? Yeah. So if I can choose a tool over here. React inside, right? Works fine, I guess. So this is React. There is no Telegram channel for us. I mean, it would be funny if we if we use Telegram while building Raven. We have this Frappe School chat, right? You can go here. And we have another community just for Raven, which is at community.ravenapp.cloud, if you're interested. And yeah, the folks who wanted like the OpenAI integration and all of that, you can message me over here, right? We are working on something, but too far ahead, right? So let's wait till October maybe. So, but yeah, those 2 are the links. So anyway, with Raven, what we have done is that this particular integration that you get, right? This is also using the same concepts that Hussein does, right, with Doppio, but instead of rendering React on a page, we are rendering React on every page, right? So that's the only difference. Apart from that, this is the same thing. Okay, any more questions that we might have? Else you already have access to to our team at both of these channels, so it's all right. Okay, perfect. I think that's about it for this training. There is no Telegram channel. We just have that Raven channel, right? Why would we use Telegram? Okay. All right, guys. Thank you. Bye. It was nice doing this, and hopefully we get something done for React Native soon.
Okay, bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Nikhil.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you for joining.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.